You know, the NFL draft is super difficult, right? It's really hard to hit on your draft picks. And it's always fun to look at, like, redrafts and stuff like that of previous NFL drafts, just to see how differently everything could have shaped up given the information we know now. And I'm taking this concept and applying it to Madden and applying it to the Philadelphia Eagles specifically over the last bunch of years. And also, gotta point this out, former Madden YouTuber, maybe he'll come back one day, I don't know, Beard Mobox. He made a video like this a while ago with a bunch of different NFL teams. I'm not sure if he did them all, but this was a few years ago. He made videos of like if this team drafted perfectly and then showed off what the team would look like. I'm going to be doing the same thing here. We're going to take it into Madden though, and we're going to simulate a season just to see how well the team would play. Let me explain what I mean by perfectly, okay? Because that's probably not even the correct word. So you guys all got clickbaited. All right, you have to now like the video because I've successfully done this. No, what I mean by perfectly is that I kept the same positions that the team drafted, like in the order they drafted them. I kept the positions the same. Okay, that's not changing because then it gets weirdly speculative and I didn't want to kind of go down that route. So I'm just going to keep the same positions. We're going to assume that the Eagles still had needs at all these positions when they drafted, even though it wasn't necessarily the case with a few of these positions. Like a lot of these positions are very, very deep. They probably would not have selected like another corner or something like that when they did. Just wanted to put that out there. Also, this is from 2015 to the 2020 NFL draft. Obviously, I'm not going to change the draft that literally just happened in April, because we know nothing about those prospects, really. And the draft from last year, not going to change that, because they were just rookies, a lot of room to grow for them. I mean, and also 2020, 2019, those are still like a little bit too early to even judge as well. But I wanted to have like at least 5 drafts in this video. So who knows, down the line, a player I swapped out for the Eagles could potentially ball out and become an all-pro one day because they're still so young, okay? There's definitely still a chance for that to happen. I also kind of kept all like the off-season moves and stuff like that the Eagles made over the years, even though they probably wouldn't have happened if these drafts went differently. So this is kind of more of a video where it's like, if the Eagles could go back in time like today and just pick and choose the players they missed out on and just drag them over to the team, that's probably a better way of kind of articulating what this video is all about. But the main thing is the positions are the same, okay? So that's why the word perfect isn't like completely accurate, because there's maybe some positions that the Eagles just shouldn't have targeted because they weren't that strong or something like that. But I think that's enough rambling. Let's go over the roster. Let's go ahead and start all the way back in 2015, where in the first round, Eagles selected Nelson Agholor. Was he good for the Eagles? No, for sure. But was he bad? Yeah, okay, he was pretty bad. Nelson Agholor was quite terrible. He had one pretty decent year. Other than that, he really wasn't that good. Dropped a lot of passes, made this dude into a meme. Nelson Agholor did a couple things, I suppose. But instead of drafting Nelson Agholor, the Eagles, along with every other team in the NFL, honestly, because this player went very late, should have selected Stefon Diggs. This is a no-brainer. Like, Stefon Diggs is incredible. And he went in the 5th round, which is absolutely bonkers that he went so late. A couple other notable players I could have had here. Tyler Lockett, also far better than Nelson Agholor, but I think Stefon Diggs is a better receiver. And Darren Waller, this is an interesting one. So if the Eagles would have selected another receiver in this draft, I probably would have had them selecting Darren Waller instead, because Darren Waller is a ridiculously good tight end. Never really made it as a receiver, just straight up, but as a tight end, he's phenomenal. Very good on the Raiders. He's a great player, of course, but I think Stefon Diggs is still the clear-cut option right here. But man, Darren Waller went in the 6th round. There really aren't many other receivers who are worse than Nelson Agholor in this entire draft class. So the Eagles actually kind of found a gem. They found such a bad player that is actually a little bit impressive. The Eagles then selected Eric Rowe in the 2nd round. So Eric Rowe wasn't too bad last year. He had a 71.1 PFF grade as a safety. But I still think this pick should have been a little bit different. So going down the board a bit more, there's Ronald Darby and there's also Steven Nelson. And I decided to go with Steven Nelson. They're both pretty similar when it comes to like how they graded over the years. But I think Steven Nelson just barely is a little bit better than Ronald Darby. I'm kind of just going off of PFF here. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to football, when it comes to like analytics and stuff like that. And I definitely trust PFF a lot more than myself. I know a lot of people clown on them, but they still provide a lot of very valuable information. So I'm just going to kind of go off of that. Steven Nelson is the pick. Not super great, only a 79 in Madden currently, but probably still better than Eric Rowe. Now this was another tough one. So in the 3rd round, the Eagles selected Jordan Hicks. And Jordan Hicks was really good for a couple seasons. He was like incredible. When was that, like 2016, I think? He was actually so good. Yeah, in 2016, he was one of the better linebackers in all of football. So Jordan Hicks like paid off immediately, but then he got hurt. So then he kind of took a step back a little bit. The next option, I think the next best option potentially is Quan Alexander. And again, just comparing their grades, I think I'd go with Jordan Hicks over Quan. Also, Zadarius Smith got taken after Jordan Hicks, but he's not the same position technically. They're both listed as linebackers here, but Zadarius Smith, definitely an edge player. Jordan Hicks is not. So I'm going to go off of like Jordan Hicks' position here. So Quan Alexander could be the selection, but I think Jordan Hicks is still a little bit better. A couple of these get really close, so definitely let me know in the comments who you think they should have went with. Also, let me know if I'm overlooking anyone massive. I tried to go through this kind of thoroughly, but there's a chance I missed a player. So please let me know in the comments if I messed up somewhere. And then the Eagles didn't draft again until the 6th round that year, where they selected a pair of cornerbacks. Neither are very good, but instead, with one of those picks, they definitely should have taken Bryce Callahan. A couple other guys who went undrafted who probably could have been here too. Quentin Dunbar, Justin Coleman, better than the players that the Eagles selected, but Bryce Callahan's super solid. So he definitely should have been drafted. That's gonna do it then for the 2015 NFL draft. So let's move to the 2016 draft, where things get spicy, right? So the Eagles took Carson Wentz, pick number 2 in the entire draft. The correct pick was probably Dak Prescott. Kind of sucks to say, right? He's on the Cowboys, but I respect Dak. He's a good player, obviously. Carson Wentz, not as much anymore. Dak Prescott still doing his thing. He's still a very good quarterback. Now, there's like an argument to be had potentially for Carson Wentz here, right? Because the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Carson Wentz was on pace to potentially be the MVP. And he's a massive reason why they won that Super Bowl, even though he didn't play in the postseason. Of course, Nick Foles, best backup quarterback of all time, came in and won the Super Bowl. But I'm of the belief that the Eagles needed both of those quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl. I don't think they potentially would have won it with just Nick Foles the whole year. I don't think they would have been that dominant, personally. Maybe they would have, who knows. And if Carson Wentz never got hurt, maybe they don't go on to win the Super Bowl. Maybe they do, though, because Carson Wentz was actually balling out that year. So, like, aside from that year, Dak Prescott seems like the better option. But that one season, I feel like there could be a case for Carson Wentz because they ended up getting a Super Bowl in the end. This is an interesting one. This is what I said. It gets a little spicy. This is definitely an interesting one. Would probably still take Dak Prescott, though. The Eagles then spent their next pick in that draft on Isaac Seumalo, who I am actually just deciding to keep. So the interior O-linemen after him, who are kind of like worth noting, are like Graham Glasgow, Austin Blythe potentially could be here instead. But other than them, there's not too many other players. Like Isaac Seumalo was all right pretty much his entire career, especially last year. He was actually really solid. So I feel like this is a fine pick. The Eagles were one pick away from being able to get Joe Thuney, though. The following pick then was Wendell Smallwood, and I didn't even bother getting a replacement because there really aren't that many other running backs who I would have rather taken, like Alex Collins, maybe. You could probably have some guys who were undrafted down here, like J.D. McKissick, Jalen Richard, Peyton Barber. Probably better running backs, but really wouldn't have made a big difference on this team. Now, here is actually a fantastic example of why perfect isn't the correct word to describe this. So, the Eagles drafted Hal Vatae in the 5th round after Wendell Smallwood then. And he's probably the best tackle that was at that point. But then the pick directly after was Tyreek Hill. So, obviously, Tyreek Hill should have been the selection. Okay, like if we're going back like that. Tyreek Hill is way better than Hal Vatae is, and way more valuable. But with the metric that I was kind of using to describe this, Hal Vatae is the correct pick. That's weird to say because Tyreek Hill for sure is the right pick. But I kind of just wanted to have rules like this, so it made some of the decisions a little bit easier. This one's clearly very easy, but there could be more down the line where you can make an argument. But this is certainly me admitting that, yes, Tyreek Hill, probably the pick. just wanted to put that out there before somebody calls me an idiot for not taking Tyreek Hill. And then there's a couple more guys at the end of the draft the Eagles could have selected instead. Corey Littleton, the Eagles selected Joe Walker, and Corey Littleton was still there, so probably a better pick to go with Littleton. At safety, Jaron Curse was here. They selected Jalen Mills, who, you know, hasn't been that bad on the Patriots, but when he was on the Eagles, that was a tough sight. And also, the Eagles selected Alex McAllister, a D-end in the 7th round. Romeo Okwara went undrafted, clearly the better player. Moving on to the 2017 NFL Draft, where the Eagles in the 1st round selected Derek Barnett to play edge. And if I say it like that he's playing edge, that allows me to take a far better player, potentially the best edge in the NFL today, TJ Watt. TJ Watt went pick 30, Derek Barnett went pick 14. If you compare them as edge players, obviously it's not even a competition. So technically speaking, on Wikipedia, they're listed as different positions, but when it actually comes down to football, they're both rushing off the edge. Kind of the same position here. TJ Watt, I think, is very obviously the choice. The Eagles then selected Sidney Jones in the 2nd round, and I think they probably should have went Shaq Griffin. Sidney Jones never really panned out on the Eagles, so I think Shaq Griffin, pretty big upgrade. The Eagles snagged another cornerback then in Rasul Douglas, who honestly had a pretty good season for the Packers, but he was horrible on the Eagles. I mean, I guess in 2018 he was okay, but every other season he wasn't that good. But Kenny Moore went undrafted, and I feel like he's probably the better option. So we're going to have the Eagles selecting Kenny Moore in this kind of redraft thing. Then after that, in the 4th round, the Eagles selected Mac Hollins, but the receivers at this point really weren't that good anyway. In the 5th round, they also selected another receiver, so we can kind of talk about those both at the same time. I don't think I actually got anyone instead of those guys, but like Greg Ward went undrafted this year. Probably a better receiver than the both of them. Like Kendrick Bourne is here, Zach Pascal is here, Tim Patrick, probably the best receiver of the bunch in this kind of area. So those guys probably should have been selected, but again, they're really not going to make too much of a difference because the receiving core on this team is ridiculous. The Eagles drafted Donnell Pumphrey when they could have instead drafted Aaron Jones. Far better running back. Still very good. I don't even know what Pumphrey's doing anymore. There is also another running back who was far better than Pumphrey, and he went undrafted. But the Eagles took 2 running backs. They signed Corey Clement after the draft. He went undrafted as well. But they also could have gotten Austin Eckler instead of Corey Clement. Definitely an upgrade. Austin Eckler's very good. The Eagles also drafted Elijah Qualls, and they drafted Nathan Gary. 2 players I didn't get replacements for because, you know, the remaining players at those positions weren't very good. But I want to point something else out as well. I could have done this, technically. Instead of the Mac Hollins pick, we probably could have justified it in a way where the Eagles took George Kittle instead because he was selected afterwards. And obviously, George Kittle's very good at football. But listed as a tight end, Mac Hollins listed as a receiver. I'm not gonna change that one. So yeah, George Kittle probably should have been taken. He probably should have been taken by every team at some point because obviously it's George Kittle. Let's hop over then to the 2018 NFL draft class, and this is very tough, okay? This is so difficult to come to terms with. The Eagles selected Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is so good, but the thing is, Mark Andrews was selected after, and I feel like he is definitely better. It might not be by much, but I think this is an upgrade, okay? Mark Andrews is so good as well. This was a very tough one to decide between. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong choice here because Goddard's been good for the Eagles. Obviously, Andrews has been fantastic for the Ravens, but I just feel like I have to switch out Goddard. That sucks because I really do like Dallas Goedert. He's one of my favorite players on the Eagles, so I didn't really want to do this, but I feel like I kind of have to. Now, the Eagles are going to get 2 cornerbacks from this class, and the one they took first is probably worse. Not probably, is certainly worse. But there's a reason for me doing it this way, because the other one went undrafted. In the 4th round, the Eagles selected Avonte Maddox. And that was actually a very good pick. He is, I think, a good bit better than pretty much everyone who went after him, except for at least one guy. And that guy is J.C. Jackson. So J.C. Jackson went undrafted this year. And the Eagles signed an undrafted cornerback in Chandon Sullivan. So we're able to kind of just swap that one out. So instead, they get J.C. Jackson. Also could have gotten guys like Darius Williams, Levi Wallace, Jarvarius Ward. All definitely better than Chandon Sullivan, that's for sure. Now another draft pick I'm just going to keep. Josh Sweat. Went in the 4th round. Another pretty good pick. Josh Sweat's solid. Now this is a bit of a weird situation, but the Eagles selected Matt Pryor in the 6th round at offensive tackle, where they probably should have taken the player they took in the 7th round, Jordan Mailata. So regardless, Jordan Mailata was the pick for one of those two. Either the 6th round pick or the 7th round pick. Definitely should have taken Mailata, who is one of the league's best tackles right now, and he was selected so late. He's very good. And there really isn't much of an upgrade over like Matt Pryor either, so I'm just not going to talk about it too much. We're getting closer to the end. All right, we're getting there. The 2019 NFL Draft. The Eagles selected in the 1st round Andre Dillard, offensive tackle. And this is another kind of example where it gets weird with who they should have taken, because there's obviously a bunch of guys you could have made the case for, right? You could make the case for a bunch of these receivers potentially. Max Crosby is very good. Elgton Jenkins maybe, but he's a center. I don't know about that. Instead I went with Dalton Reisner, who actually does play guard. So he's an interior offensive lineman right now, but he was drafted, at least according to Wikipedia, as a tackle. So then I probably could have went Elgton Jenkins if Reisner's going to be playing guard in this video anyway. Might have been a better pick. Dalton Reisner is good though. Elgton Jenkins, I just know, is a little bit higher of an overall in this game, which doesn't really mean all that much. But there's probably other guys the Eagles could have went with other than like tackle, because this tackle class wasn't super strong. Now here's another one that could definitely be argued in a few ways. So the Eagles selected Miles Sanders in the 2nd round. David Montgomery was still available. Devin Singletary, Damian Harris, Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison. Some pretty good running backs down here. I just kept Miles Sanders, but I figured I'd point out like David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery would probably be the one I would switch them out for, but I think they're close enough. So Miles Sanders it is. And now for one of the bigger yikes the Eagles have ever made. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, selected pick number 57 overall, when the Eagles could have gotten DK Metcalf. Also could have gotten Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, Hunter Renfrow. This pisses me off the more I look at it. Darius Slayton, Scotty Miller, all guys that are way better. Jacoby Myers went undrafted. Preston Williams is probably even a lot better. So this was a tough one to look back on. But yeah, DK Metcalf I think is probably the pick here. It's probably either him or Terry McLaurin. Hunter Renfrow had a good year last year too. Deontay Johnson's also good. So there's a bunch of options. I'm just going to go with Metcalf because he was the one talked about the most, I feel like, when you talk about who the Eagles should have taken in this situation. So Metcalf is an Eagle. Another player I need to talk about, Gardner Minshew, right? He made his way on the Eagles eventually, but they could have selected him. Instead, they took Clayton Thorson. So Gardner Minshew's probably the draft pick there. And I think that's kind of it for this draft. There's a couple other guys they drafted, a few other guys they signed. But one other notable player, TJ Edwards, was an undrafted free agent this year, and he's good. TJ Edwards is definitely a solid middle linebacker. And another absolute yikes by the Eagles. Pick number 21. They select Jalen Reagor. Just such a sick player, dude. The pick directly after, this man goes. Justin Jefferson. Already one of the best receivers in the NFL, and he's hardly played. This draft pick still hurts so bad. Now, obviously, like maybe Justin Jefferson wouldn't have been as good on the Eagles or something, I don't know, but man, this sucks in hindsight. And this is also where things can get a little weird with this kind of video, just doing it by like keeping the same position. Because the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round, and he for sure was the best quarterback at that point. But in this kind of universe I have going on right now, the Eagles drafted Dak Prescott, right? And Dak Prescott didn't regress as badly as Carson Wentz did. So this pick would make absolutely zero sense. We're going to stick with it here though, just so I keep the theme going. Another guy I had the Eagles select instead was Cameron Curl. The Eagles selected Kayvon Wallace in the 4th round. Definitely think Cameron Curl is a better safety. And another player who I could have had here as well is L'Jarius Sneed, because he was selected as a safety. He plays corner now though, so I figured I would just go Cameron Curl since he still plays safety. The Eagles selected Jack Driscoll in the 4th round, where they definitely should have taken Mike Onwenu. However you pronounce his last name. I probably messed it up. But yeah, he's a lot better. And I think we're going to round this draft class off then with a couple receivers. So Darnell Mooney should have been taken by the Eagles instead of John Hightower. Darnell Mooney's very solid. Another player definitely better than Jalen Reagor. It just is a lot of pain every time I think about it. And then Quez Watkins. I'm just going to keep the same. Quez Watkins is pretty good, man. I think Quez Watkins can actually turn out to be a very solid receiver on this Philadelphia Eagles team. Not in this video, because there's way too many like really good players above him, but in real life, you know, Quez Watkins is pretty good. I skipped out on a couple guys there because there's like some linebackers and some tackles that really couldn't have been upgraded that much. So I think we are good, just to kind of show off the team as a whole. Also, in case I missed anybody, because there's definitely a chance I did. I'm pretty sure I at least did miss somebody. Chuck Clark is here. I forgot over who. But the Eagles could have taken Chuck Clark at some point. This is now the Philadelphia Eagles. Looking way better. And we have like a billion cornerbacks who are all really solid. So I'm just going to let Madden figure out who plays. That's probably the best way to do this. This offense looks disgusting. Devontae Smith is just hitting all the way down here. A.J. Brown is the 4th receiver on the team. So it's things like that that probably wouldn't have happened. Eagles probably wouldn't have drafted Devontae Smith if they had selected Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and DK Metcalf. They probably wouldn't have taken A.J. Brown or traded for him. There's definitely a couple things that likely would not have happened. So this team could potentially even be more perfect. But I kind of like this basis of making this kind of video. Makes it a little bit easier to replicate to other teams and whatnot. But anyway, let's simulate and see how well this team does. So obviously, this team made the playoffs. We went 12-5. I kind of want to see what like the wide receiver distribution looked like. Dak Prescott, solid season. Aaron Jones had a ridiculous season, 24 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 1,000 yards. A.J. Brown, 1,000 yards. Mark Andrews, almost. Stephon Diggs, almost. It's kind of weird that Stephon Diggs was the lowest receiver, but whatever, it's fine. So yeah, I mean, this team did well. I expected it to do well. Let's see what they can do in the playoffs, though. Can they take down the Chicago Bears? Yes, they can. Now they have to stay in that division, going up against the Packers into the conference championship. Do we see the Birds? We do see the Birds against the Carolina Panthers, the now Baker Mayfield-led Carolina Panthers. Can they go to a Super Bowl, though, them being the Eagles? Please. These two animals are fighting. Does an eagle take down a panther? Who knows? They can take to the sky. I don't know. But anyway, the Chiefs, we have to play them, and they're good. But we are 92 overall. We should win. Win a Super Bowl. Come on. It's not that hard. We're going to win the Super Bowl. So that's all the Eagles have to do to win another Super Bowl. Just draft absolutely perfectly for like 6 straight years. You're not going to have any money, but you know, you're going to have one hell of a good team. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know of other teams you'd like me to do this with down below. I might do it again if people enjoy this video. But I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.